Hello, everybody. How's it going? Happy Monday. That's when I'm recording this. Thought I'd do a nice video because I haven't done one since Friday. This is not a mystery unsolved. It's not a mystery ghost stories. It's not a mystery blue book. Just a simple video that I usually like to do from time to time. It is, of course, on something hard because hard topics are what I usually discuss. This is something I've actually been cooking up for a while. I needed to finish watching the show first before I could do a video on it. So tonight's video, I am going to be analyzing a TV show that used to be on in the 80s and early 90s called The Hitchhiker. You might be familiar with it. It was on HBO from 1984. I want to get the years just right. It aired for 6 seasons. It was on HBO from 1983 to 1987, the year I was born. And then from 1989 to 1991 on the USA Network. So 6 seasons. Obviously, I didn't watch this when it came out because I was just being born, and I wasn't born before it really came out. So I do remember it, though. I remember my dad watching it, like maybe a few years after. Probably when it was syndicated, I would imagine. I don't remember any of the episodes, but I just remember the creepy theme song. You may remember, if you haven't watched my videos where I do the top 5 creepiest theme songs, The Hitchhiker is on the list. Because I just remember the theme as a kid. I think it's kind of creepy. But then it kind of made me like, you know what is this show actually about? That's what we're going to discuss. So I'm going to tell you what The Hitchhiker was about, what it was. I'm going to break it down, give you a kind of like a general idea of what I thought about the series overall, and then I'm going to give you my top 10 favorite episodes. And the last part is kind of important because once you realize what I tell you, how the show is as a whole, you'll probably realize that me mentioning my top 10 favorite episodes and breaking down why I like them is kind of important. Without further ado, analyzing the show, The Hitchhiker. The Hitchhiker, also known as Deadly Nightmares in the United Kingdom. I cannot talk. Is a mystery horror anthology television series. It aired from 1983 to 1987 on HBO. Or possibly Cinemax. Oh, I didn't know that. Although that does explain one thing. And First Choice and NT. Then the series moved to the USA Network from 1989 to 1991. It stars Paige Fletcher and Nicholas Campbell. So Paige Fletcher is the Hitchhiker. So basically, each episode is introduced and concluded by a mysterious wanderer known only as the Hitchhiker, played by Paige Fletcher. It was originally played by Nicholas Campbell in the first episode, but after they found Paige Fletcher, they kind of like, I guess they edited him out or whatever. So he's actually, yeah, it's weird, but yeah. And explores the foibles of humanity and its dark spirit. We're off to a great start. The title character was played by Nicholas Campbell from 1983 to 1984. So the first season was only 3 episodes, but the opening, there's only one episode, which I think is the pilot, in which Nicholas Campbell is seen walking down the street, not Paige Fletcher. But in syndicated, like if you were to buy the series in a store, that's been dubbed over. So Nicholas Campbell shouldn't even be in it. There were a total of 85 episodes over 6 seasons, 39 first runs on HBO, and 46 first runs on USA. So yeah, pretty straightforward. Mystery horror anthology. So think of the Twilight Zone, but obviously in the 80s, a lot more dark and edgier. Think Tales from the Dark Side, Tales from the Crypt. This was before Tales of the Crypt, I think. I think Tales from the Crypt was like 1993. So this was kind of like a testing for HBO before, Tales from the Crypt. The series was a United States, Canada, France co-production. It was filmed in Vancouver, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and Paris, France. The show was produced by Corazon Productions. Season 1 for a total of 3 episodes. Quintina Productions, seasons 2 to 4. And then Atlantique and Quintana Productions for seasons 5 and 6. The Hitchhiker was created by Louis Chester and Riff Morawitz, later joined by Richard Rothstein. The pilot episode consisted of 3 stories. Richard Rothstein wrote 2, and Jeb Loeb and Matt Wiseman wrote the 3rd. Pal Hoffer created the theme music for the show. So he's the one that came up with the like, I don't do it justice, but it's creepy. So I know something talks about, before I get into what I think the show was, I need to, it's not going to tell me, is it? It's not going to tell me. Okay, so I'm going to have to break it down for you. It's not under production. It's not under synopsis, episodes. Let's see. Okay, it's not showing me. Basically, like I said, it was a horror mystery. Yeah, a mystery horror anthology, ran for 6 seasons, and the first ever episode was called Shattered Vows. And remember, back in the day, HBO and Cinemax liked to show something. They like to show a little bit of, shall we call it, as what it was, softcore porn. The Hitchhiker's early seasons are riddled with this. That's not obviously the reason I watched it. I'm not about any of that crap. But it's definitely noticeable. In the first 3 episodes, it's obvious. The first 2 seasons, it's like they started with the softcore porn scenes, and then they built a story around it. That doesn't take away from the stories, because the stories are still really good, but it's just really interesting to see how many episodes have these like sex scenes, and like how many of them are intricate to the plot, and how many of them are literally just thrown in for the sake of having sex scenes in the episode. And there were several. The first episode, Shattered Vows, is interesting because right off the bat, there's a sex scene where this guy marries this woman, and in secret, he's actually sleeping with the woman's stepdaughter. And something crazy it's called Shattered Vows. You don't realize how literal the title is until you watch it. So yeah, a lot of sex scenes. Sometimes they add to the episode, but a lot of times they're just literally just thrown in for the sake of having a sex scene. So leave it to HBO back in the day to be like, hey, we know what you want. It's like, but it's a horror mystery anthology. Like just think of how awkward the Twilight Zone would have been had they had scenes like that. Like, but yeah, so the one thing I can tell you about this show is it's definitely hit or miss. It was for me. I found myself saying it was a miss for a lot of episodes. I'm just going to throw it out there. Maybe for every 5 to 7 bad episodes, there's one good one, which isn't a good average or ratio. I suck at math, but just go with me on that. It's basically, in a nutshell, The Hitchhiker it does have good episodes. Unfortunately, what a lot of them have in common is the episode will start off good, like the episode of any show will be. Excuse me. And then it'll take a turn. So let's say there's a fork in the road. the road not taken, right? So there's two paths you can take. It seems like for the Hitchhiker, every episode took the path that you didn't want to take. And it usually left either a bad tasting ending in your mouth or an ending that just kind of was like that. We're doing the Obama thing, right? It left a lot of questions. Now, the ending of every episode, not always a twist, but more than likely, mostly a twist. It was either a good twist, a bad twist, or just something rather dull. You get what I'm saying? Yeah, like an ending where you're just scratching your head like the episode had so much promise and that's how they ended it? And there was a lot like that. So basically, a lot of the episodes, at least I want to say maybe over just a little bit over a dozen, I predicted. I would stop, I would pause it, and I'd be like, okay, how's this episode going to play out? Right? Sometimes I would come up with like 3 or 4 scenarios, and I'd be totally wrong. Other times I would point on correct. And I'd be like, oh, look at that. That's how the episode ends. How did I know that? I've never seen this before. It was just because of the build-up, the way the episode was presented, and I would just call it. So yeah, some of them were very hit and miss. The funny thing is there's a lot of episodes, obviously seasons 3 through 6 were on USA Network, right? Yeah. So, right? Yeah. So the episodes that went to the USA Network, obviously USA is a cable network. They're not the cable channel. They're not going to show sex scenes. This is interesting because there were several episodes where I felt like scenes were missing. And we're not talking just sex scenes because it does seem like, if there was like a love interest or like general like lust or just general longing or attraction between two people, it wouldn't show the sex scenes, obviously, but you could tell that had it been an earlier episode or it was filmed longer, they cut those out. You could just tell. But also, I think not only is this telling because it cut out the sex scenes, but I think they cut out certain pivotal scenes that were kind of important to the plot because there are several episodes where I'm like, I feel like they cut something out because this doesn't add up. Like something's missing here. Like you watch the episodes and you're like, something's off here. Like there's like a scene missing. I can't confirm that, but like I imagine if I Googled hard enough, I'd probably find that there's evidence that they spliced and took out scenes because some of the episodes are just bonkers. I'm not going to go over every single episode. I'm only going to go over episodes that, obviously, I'm going to go over my top 10. I'm also going to go over episodes that were kind of weird or just like kind of left me like, oh God, like it was a different time. One thing that's worth noting is the cast. Like much earlier Twilight Zone series, which had a lot of other commonalities, The Hitchhiker served as a starting point for many actors, some of whom would go on to gain greater recognition elsewhere. So these are a list of some of the people. This is a list of some of the actors that appeared in episodes of The Hitchhiker. Kirstie Alley, who was in Out of the Night, and the legendary Billy B. Those are 2 episodes I'm going to talk about, not because Kirstie Alley's in them, but they're worth talking about. Susan Anspach, who was in Dead Man's Curve, Sandra Bernhard, who's in OD Feelin', Karen, the late great Karen Black, she's in hired help, which is not a good episode. I'll just come right out and say that. Gary Busey is in an episode, believe it or not. He's in WGOD. There's another episode. That's one of the episodes that I feel like something was missing because it went so over my head. And it had such a dull ending. Robert Carradine was in Gotterbelt. Peter Coyote is in the last scene. Willem Dafoe is in Ghostwriter. So I'm going to tell you straight up, Willem Dafoe is in one of my favorite episodes, Ghostwriter. I will talk about Ghostwriter and how his performance was in that. Brad Dourif, Chucky himself, is in an episode. He's in the legendary Billy B with Kirstie Alley. Louise Fletcher, the one who played Nurse Cratchit in One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, she is in Offspring. Zach Galligan, he was in Gremlins. He was in the episode Toxic Shock. John Glover is in an episode called Striptease, which I will be talking about. Elliot Gould is in A Whole New You. I'm skipping over some people. Jill Hennessy, hot as hell in both of her episodes. Just gonna come right out and say it. She was in the episode Striptease, and she was also in the episode Pawns, which I will be talking about. C. Thomas Howell was in an episode. Helen Hunt was in an episode called Why Are You Here, which I will be talking about. Lauren Hutton was in Riding the Nightmare. The late Margot Kidder, who played, of course, Lois Lane in Superman with Christopher Reeve. She was in an episode called Night Shift. Claude Kinski, Lorenzo Lamas, Michael Madsen, Virginia Madsen, Carrie Ann Moss of Matrix fame, Jerry Orbach from Law & Order, Bill Paxton, James Remar. Gene Simmons was apparently in an episode, didn't notice him. Shannon Tweed was in an episode. Robert Vaughn. And there's many others, but those are just some of the many actors who would go on to, of course, have bigger fame. So, like I said, was the show good, Justin? Yes and no. Obviously, I watched the entire series. There were times where I didn't really question ever. There wasn't really ever a time where I questioned, I'm not going to finish this, because the goal was always to finish the series. I wanted to see what it was. There were like at least seasons 2 and 3. There were episodes where like I was going like 5 in a row. Just nope. Then I get a good one. This didn't, believe it or not, it did not derail me from not wanting to continue watching, which is crazy. But like I said, I'm not going to go over every single episode, but I'm going to go over I'll tell you what. I'm going to go over my top 10 favorite episodes. And then afterwards, I'm going to go over episodes that kind of were like questionable, shall we say. My number 10 favorite episode is from season 5. It's an episode called Pawns, which features Jill Hennessy. Hot as hell in this episode. Basically, I'm not going to remember names because I watched this like earlier this year. Basically, there was this rock singer. He's kind of fallen on hard times. He wants to try to make it again, and he comes across this pawn shop, and he wants to sell his guitar, I think. And Jill Hennessy's character recognizes him, and there's this old guy behind the counter of the pawn shop, and Jill Hennessy she's a big fan of his, of this rock guy. So rather than sell his guitar, she's like, listen, I think you should still try to continue make it big. You used to be big. You had a great album. I want to see you sing again. So he goes back to the pawn shop for a few days, and he meets with her. They talk on the roof. They talk behind closed doors. They have sex. They don't show anything with Jill Hennessy. Like I said, season 5. So, but slowly you start to notice something that seems a little. She's a little off, and it's revealed that the guy that runs the pawn shop isn't actually running the pawn shop. Jill Hennessy's character is running the pawn shop. He's just a guy who, like the rock singer, was in a career, was down on his luck, and she sucked the youth out of it. So that's not actually how he looked. So the episode ends. I'm skipping a lot of shit, but I'm giving it to you in a nutshell. The end of the episode shows this guy coming in, and the guy behind the counter is now the rock singer, having the youth sucked out of him because he slept with Jill Hennessy. And now he's the caretaker and owner of the pawn shop. It's very eerie. It was one of the more eerie episodes, so I liked it for that reason. So it's at number 10 for me. Number 9 is Dark Wishes. Now, I think I remember what that one is. Give me a minute. 5. Okay. So Dark Wishes is, I was trying to remember which one it was. It was like one of 2. All right. So Dark Wishes comes in at number 9. When I made this list, I was hesitant to put it on here because I predicted the ending, but it still didn't take away from my enjoyment of it. So this woman is in bed. She's got an illness. She's sick. Her husband is taking care of her, but he's kind of a busy man. So he has a home nurse come in to take a young nurse to take care of his sick, ill wife. Do you know what's going to happen? Do you know what I'm about to say next? Of course you do. Yes, he sleeps with the young nurse. Of course he does. Of course he does. But again, season 5, so you don't see anything. But it's definitely, you definitely have scenes where they interact. They're in bed together. And every night, the young nurse has the woman, the sick woman, take her medicine. Meanwhile, when she's not there taking care of the ill woman, she's going to this corner store, going downstairs to the back room to talk with this black man who deals with voodoo, supernatural type stuff. And basically, he gives her like this white powder. And at first I thought it was drugs, but then I started realizing once the voodoo came up and stuff. So basically, he's giving her this like weird, this slow poison to kill the wife. She gives it to her twice. First time, doesn't kill her. Second time, doesn't kill her. Do you know what I'm about to tell you? What the reveal is? So the second time that she was given the poison, I saw the ending coming from a mile away. So she tries to give her the poison a third time. The end of the episode is revealed where you see the man at the corner store in the back performing his ritual. And then it cuts to the final scene that shows the police coming out of the house. The nurse is the one in the body bag because we see the wife come out all dressed up saying, "Oh, it's such a shame of what happened to her. I didn't know she was like that." And then there's a knock at the door, and it's revealed it's the black guy from the corner store who knew the wife. So all that time, the nurse thought she was poisoning the wife, And in reality, she was probably making her better. Like the nice reversal there. That's why this one's number 9. Coming in at number 8 is Minuteman, season 4. Minuteman is good because it's the one episode where something bad doesn't happen. Well, it does, but it's one of those episodes. It's Groundhog Day. The movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. It's that. This guy and his wife repeat the same day over and over. Only he's the only one that knows it. And he keeps going to this diner. And every time he goes to this diner, this biker and his wife rob them at gunpoint. Either he gets killed, his wife gets killed, or they're riding in the car along the highway and it goes off the side of the road. He repeats this constantly. But then he comes up with an idea. He lets them have his car. They think it's a little weird, but he allows it because he sees the scenario. He's lived it so many damn times. So he has them take his car. Him and his wife get on the motorcycle. And wouldn't you know it, they get into an accident. The people, the biker that was going to rob them, they get into an accident in his car. And he escapes with his wife. So I was like, oh, this is a weird one. This is like something good actually happens. Well, bad, but like good for the main people that are in. You know what I mean? So I thought that was interesting. That comes in at number 8. Hit and Run, season 5. A lot of season 5 episodes. So Hit and Run reminded me of Passage for Trumpet with Jack Klugman, the episode of The Twilight Zone, where he gets hit by a car and he thinks he's dead. Spoiler alert. Basically, Hit and Run is this tool bag asshole husband. He's got 2 kids. He lives in a trailer park with his wife and kids, and he treats them like crap. He's like, I didn't want this life. And he, gets in his car, drives to the strip club, and pretty much is having an affair with one of the strippers. Could you get any more much of a douchebag? Could you become any more of a douchebag, right? So the second time that he goes out, he leaves his house. He's like maybe like a block away, and he ends up hitting this guy with his car. After he hits the guy with his car, he goes to the club, and he sees one of the bartenders, and he knocks on the window, and he goes, "Hey, I just want to see how she is. I just want to see how she's doing." So he doesn't pay him any mind. I immediately picked up on the reason why he wasn't acknowledging him. I'm sure you know why too. So as he's leaving, he overhears the bartender come out and tell another guy that his stripper girlfriend is at another club. So he goes to this other club, and he goes upstairs, and he sees her. Well, he doesn't see her. She's in the bathroom. He sees another guy in bed, and he's like, I've seen you before. And he realizes that it's the guy that he hit with his car. So the girl doesn't come out, and he ends up killing the guy in the bed. And he storms out. So then, fast forward, he's at the club again, and once again, he goes back to the trailer park, and his kids aren't anywhere to be found. Again, his wife is in the bathroom, or his wife's crying in the bathroom, and he looks in his bed, and there's that guy again, the guy he hit with his car. And he's like, I don't understand, I killed you. So he kills him again. So he doesn't understand what's going on. I, however, know exactly what's going on. So he gets in his car, and basically, what happens is his wife ends up coming out, and he's like, "What are you talking about? What's going on? What are you doing, honey?" And what happens is it goes back to the scene where he hit the person, Only he didn't. He not only did he hit the person, but he ended up swerving into a pole and he killed himself. So he's been dead this entire time, which I immediately picked up on when he went to the bar and the bartender didn't acknowledge him. So he realizes, he looks around and he sees that he's dead. And he's like, no, no, it can't be, I'm right here. And he starts crying, and then the hitchhiker appears. And it's the end of the episode. And I'm like, you know what? Even though I called that, I still like that. Coming in at number 6, Out of the Night, which was a season 2 episode. I'm going to need a refresher because I don't particularly remember what this one is. I just need to be reminded. Will it tell me? Oh, did I put 2? Oh, I put 2. It's actually a season 3 episode. My bad. Ah. Is that the one with Kirstie Alley? Let me check. If it is, I can pretty much. That'll help me remember. Okay, Out of the Night is all right. That helps me. Sorry about that. Number 6, Out of the Night, the episode, one of the first episodes with Kirstie Alley. This episode made no fucking sense whatsoever. This young kid is pretty much, he goes to this carnival, and Kirstie Alley plays this woman named Angelica, but she talks incoherently. She doesn't make sense. She says, "Follow me, let's go here." And he follows her, and he ends up in this fun house. And the episode is a mess. It's all over the place. And we see Kirstie Alley as this weird woman who's trying to direct him in like all these places that he feels like he shouldn't go. Then we see this girl who I thought was his sister, but then he starts making out with her. So I'm like, well, I certainly hope that it's not his sister. It's his girlfriend. And basically, yeah, it's really weird. So basically, he also sees this older woman, this older woman, who he feels like he knows, but he's not sure. And he keeps just walking into this carnival, this fun house, whatever it is, and he comes across all these people, and they're having like some type of performance. And I know you're confused. I'm just telling you from what I remember the episode being. I'm not leaving anything out, right? Long story short, you're probably like, why the fuck is this on your list? The ending. The ending is why it's on my list. The ending is revealed that the kid, the main guy, is in the hospital because he tried to kill himself by ODing. And it's revealed that the girl that he just randomly started, I said it was his girlfriend. I kind of said that beforehand. The random blonde girl that he was excuse me, the random blonde girl that he started kissing was actually his girlfriend. The older woman that was worried about him was his mother. And everybody else, everyone in the story was a part of his life. Like the person that he saw, the old guy that he saw was the doctor that was caring for him. Another girl was a nurse. But who did Kirstie Alley play? Death. Which is why she wanted to direct him to places that he felt he didn't want to go. So once I saw the ending of that one, I was like, you know what? As much of a clusterfuck of an episode as this was, I like it. And it comes in at number 6. Give me 1 minute. Or rather, 8 seconds. Coming in at number 5, Remembering Melody. This episode was weird. So this guy, he's probably like in his late 20s, early 30s. He's a businessman, kind of a big, important head honcho. And his ex-girlfriend, who's a hippie, is still very much a hippie. And he's like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in so long. And, one thing leads to, this was a season 2 episode, so it was a sex scene. They got back together. Passionate lovemaking, right? And he realized something was off, but he couldn't remember what it was about her. Obviously, because she's a hippie. Like, he knew something was, like, why is she still like this? Like, why? I don't understand. And basically, she's very clingy. Like, he went to work and she would stay there at the house and like, oh, I'll stay here and I'll help you. And he would go back to the house and the house would seem like it would have this new aura to it. Like, every time he would step foot in it. And basically, she would try to get him to, like, oh, like, let's just settle down. Let's just be together. And he was just like, no, I can't. Like, I have a life now. Like, who I was back then isn't who I am now. I love the time I had with you, but it's not what I want now. And he's trying to convince her, but I think he's trying to convince himself deep down, because at one point he gets home and he goes into the bathtub and he sees the bathroom and he sees Melody laying there, and then he realizes Melody's gone. And well, he sees her body in there, and then he calls his other friend. Because apparently there was a group of them. They were all friends. Melody was his girlfriend, and he calls this other girl that he was still friends with, and he goes, "Oh, it's Melody. She's in the bathroom." And she goes into the bathroom, and she's like, "What are you talking about? You're not making any sense. There's nobody in there." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" Like, and he goes in there, and she goes, "I don't understand what you're talking about, Melody. You mean your old girlfriend?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Your girlfriend, she died years ago." And he's like, no, that can't be. And then the phone rings, and it's Melody saying that she's going to go hit up one of their old former friends. And the episode kind of went over my head, but then I kind of thought about it for a bit afterwards, and I realized that even though Melody was technically dead the entire time, it was kind of him getting a second chance, if he wanted it, to be with her, and he didn't take it. So at the end, he was kind of like, "Oh, I wanted to be with you." And she goes, "Oh, no, it's fine. I'm going to go check on to see what Bill wants," or whatever his name was. And he was like, "No." Look like he missed out because he had it and he kept rejecting her. So she called him one final time. So very sentimental. I thought it was the first episode where I was like, you know what? I'm invested. Number 4, Living a Lie. This was a season 6 episode. One of the last episodes I watched, because this was one I didn't watch in order because it didn't come in at the time. So Living a Lie is about this bartender who likes the luxurious life, if you will. Likes the finer things, the two-piece suits, the cufflinks, the finer things in life, shall we say. And what he does is he steals people's credit cards as a bartender. Sorry. And he ends up buying whatever he wants with their cards and their money. So this one important guy comes in, one guy that he remembers, and they have a conversation. And he goes, "Oh man, I'd kill to be you." And he goes, "Oh, I appreciate that, but my life's not easy. I've got my ups and downs just like you do." And What does he do? Of course, he ends up stealing the guy's card. Then he's out because he's getting ready. He buys, suits. He's got a bunch of shit, right? Bunch of nice fancy stuff. Then he goes outside to throw the card away, and who does he happen to run into but the guy whose card he stole? And he goes, "Oh, I found this. I meant to give it back to you." And he goes, "Yeah, I'm sure you did." And he gives it to him. He puts it back in his wallet. But then this guy it's pretty much what happens next is it's a drive-by, and the fancy guy, the guy whose card he stole, gets gunned down. So what does he do? He goes back into his wallet, steals more of his cash and his cards, sees how much money's on all the cards, goes to his bachelor pad, to the rich guys, and just lives it up. Then he calls up a girl who supposedly had never met the rich guy, and they end up going out, and what ends up happening is the girl who he's with, when he's out on the street, the guy's wife, the woman's husband, sorry, dyslexic in a weird way, the woman's husband goes, "I know who you are. And he tells him, like, no, it's a mix-up. It's a complete misunderstanding." And no, it's not. So he goes to kill him, but he ends up running away. So the husband ends up getting, I think he ends up getting stabbed. The husband ends up stabbing the guy, and he ends up running away. Or he ends up getting killed. I don't remember. But the last part of the episode is the rich guy and the blonde girl come out of this car, and he goes, you tricked me. So he faked his death because he knew he wanted to see how far the guy would go with his money and his cards. He's like, "You wanted to be me. You said so yourself. I gotta thank you, though. Her husband was on my case. Glad you got him out of the way, though." So he used the guy as a way so that he could be with that guy's wife. So I thought that was kind of clever. I do apologize if I'm fumbling over myself or if I'm not completely making sense. It's just I'm trying to remember what I remember. I'll try to talk more slow and coherent. Number 3, My Enemy. This was a season 5 episode. This episode was like crazy. So there's 2 women. The first woman is this blonde-haired girl who, I think her name's Holly. And let's say the other woman's name is Grace, because I'd have to look it up. I do know that the first woman's name was Holly. So Holly is a blonde-haired woman. She's in the car with her boyfriend, and she's just not happy. He's like, "Oh, can we go to let's go to that restaurant." And she's like, "That restaurant again? Is it just because you want to go there and because of your mother?" And he's like, "Hey, you got to impress her somehow." And you can tell she's just miserable in her life. Miserable, right? And she gets out of the car, and they're having an argument right out in the open. And she's like, "I didn't ask for this." And he storms off, like, "You never do." And they're not a happy couple. And she wants something more from life. And she sees this famous actress named Grace. And Grace pretty much you know what? I can do one better. Rather than try to remember the episode, I'm going to read a synopsis of it so that way you better understand. Because we're also in the top three, and I feel like I need to explain these episodes a hell of a lot better. Justin, you suck at videos. Thank you, person not watching this. I appreciate it. I think I got the name right with Holly. Oh, it wasn't Grace. I said it was. It was. Uh, oh, Jane. Okay, that's right. Okay, so here's a synopsis of my enemy, played by Joan Severance, who plays both Holly and Jane. Holly is a little miffed at her boyfriend that she had to spend her birthday with her future in-laws at the restaurant they chose, the Burger Hut. So I did say that. Lou, there's no pleasing you, is there? Holly, just because you can't doesn't mean there isn't. You tell him. The hitchhiker has immediately established a lot of goodwill. I have debit I have to debit the account for the awful wig they put on her on Joan Severance, but this is still a good start. Meanwhile, in another part of town, movie star Jane Ambergris, also played by Joan Severance, pulls up to the studio in her white Porsche. The awful wig on Holly in the first scene was just a contrast to the well-confined beauty of this character. Jane gets a look at some contestants in her look-alike contest and takes off in disgust, like she had just seen contestants in my look-alike contest. In her tiny rundown house, Holly gets dolled up for the contest. She makes herself up every bit as beautiful as Jane, which I predict will not make Jane any happier. It really makes you wonder what the hell Lou used to reel her in. She goes to the studio where Jane has reluctantly returned. Kudos to the director for okay, whatever. The clacking of the heels as they flock up and back on the soundstage floor is pretty fun. A slightly malevolent look-alike mannequin. The background is also effective. Jane hides out in a dress. Did I skip something? Oh, kudos to the director for a nice bit of business here, with the contestants all wearing identical purple gowns. Jane hides out in her dressing room until everyone is gone. However, Holly has hung around. She brags about how she can do anything Jane can do, so Jane shoots her. She puts the gun in Holly's hand, so it'll appear that Jane Ambergris committed suicide. Jane dumps out Holly's purse and finds her driver's license. She makes herself out to look like Holly. Here, it gets complicated. Jane makes herself over as Holly so she can escape from the fun, glamorous, fast-paced, high-pressure life she is living. I guess Holly didn't have a picture of Lou in her wallet. She writes a suicide note and leaves it for the studio chief. On the way to somewhere, Holly's car breaks down. A cop gallantly drives Jane to the address on the car's registration. At the house, the cop says, "I'll just wait here until you're safe inside." Jane opens the door and enters. After the cop drives off, Jane explores Holly's house. She screams when she discovers Holly has murdered her boyfriend and in-laws. At this point, I was like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, Holly wanted the glamorous life so bad. Jane suddenly doesn't want to be Holly anymore. No shit. She tears off the wig and cries, "I can prove who I am. I'm still Jane Ambergris." A radio apparently turns itself on, and the announcer says, "A suspicious fire broke out tonight at the studio of glamour star Jane Ambergris. However, thanks to the actions of a passing maintenance man, there were no injuries." Jane is confused and says she couldn't have missed. Fearing Holly will take over her life, Jane goes back to the studio. She sees the studio head and concocts a self-defense story to explain why she tried to kill Holly. He takes her on the soundstage where she sees a mannequin on the floor with a bullet between the eyes and a pistol in his hand. She tries to run. The exec stops her. He asks, "Why did you sign the suicide note, Holly? Was it because that is you too? Who are you now, Jane or Holly?" Jane looks as confused as I am. The titular hitchhiker shows up, but that guy's never any help. So basically, can you say why I like that episode? It was just so deep. Um, Basically, Jane Ambergris and Holly, aside from being played by the same person, were the same person. So Jane wanted to get rid of, didn't want to live the glamorous life, so she became Holly. But as Holly, she wasn't happy and she wanted to be Jane. So it was kind of like, yeah, how crazy is that? Number 2, for my favorite episodes of The Hitchhiker, Ghostwriter. I told you it was on the list. A season 3 episode featuring Willem Dafoe, the great Willem Dafoe. I will argue, however, I do not like the ending of this episode. Not one bit. But I still like the episode. The episode is so good, except for the ending. So, Willem Dafoe is a writer. He's an author. And apparently, he doesn't like his wife. And he fakes his own death. He gets killed mysteriously, and he starts toying with his wife. She'll hear something in the cellar, she'll hear something in the attic, and then he reveals himself. He does this, he concocts this whole thing. And you wonder, what the hell does he have against his wife, right? And basically, what ends up happening is she's having an affair with his agent. And he knows this. This is why he faked his death. Because he's going to try to get revenge on her. And him. So he fakes his death, and obviously he's going to try to kill her now. And he succeeds. Do you know how he succeeds? Because he gets help from his agent. Yeah. So he allowed his agent to sleep with his wife, knowing full well that he was going to then use his agent to get back at the wife. The convincing in the episode sort of works, but it's you can tell the agent's I don't want to do this. It's I know you like her, I know you love her, but so basically what happens is they have to then dispose of her body, which they do in the water. And it's concocted perfectly. So they go back to his place, him and his agent, and Willem Dafoe, sharp as a nail as ever, poisons the agent with it because they're having drinks together. And he's like, you poisoned me. And he's like, I don't need you around anymore. Did you really think that I wasn't going to use you? Just, you were in love with my wife. So he played the guy twice. So he ends up getting killed. He disposes of his body. And at this point, I'm thinking, why doesn't he just ride off into the sunset? Hitchhiker episodes never end with a guy riding off into the sunset. No, instead, Willem Dafoe, in this episode, they're having a parade or whatever. The local sheriff, sees that Willem Dafoe's character is still alive, and Willem Dafoe, in a panic, drives his car off the bridge and into the water, where he probably drowns and dies. And then the hitchhiker appears, and then the episode ends. You see what I mean? I loved Willem Dafoe is so decisive in this character, in this role for this episode. The problem is the ending does not live up to the rest of the episode. It's such crap. But I still like the episode enough to put it at number 2. Coming in at number 1, Homebodies, Season 4. I watched this episode on my computer. Blew my fucking mind. A lot of episodes feature 2 guys. One guy that's controlling the other guy. That's a pattern in a lot of episodes. Like one guy that's like, come on, let's rob the store. And the other guy's like, no, we can't do that. The guy has a family, but it doesn't matter. You know, like one of those type of scenarios. In Homebodies, no different. This guy bullies around this other guy. And he's like, you know, hey, we're gonna go into this house, and we're gonna steal from these people. And of course, the second guy is like, no, we can't, we shouldn't do that, because they had just robbed a liquor store, right? And sure enough, they go in. The family is startled. It's a father, a husband, and a little boy, and their daughter, their teenage daughter. And basically, what happens is the guy with a gun, the mean of the two, he's ransacking the house. He's like, you watch the family. So the guy watches the family, and he's got a gun on the family. And the nice of the two crooks, we'll call them, while he's got the gun on them, the family is like, please don't do this. And they're like, you just want a family too, don't you? And he's like, shut up. That's not what I want. And the family's like pleading with him, but they almost feel bad for him. They can tell that the other guy is using him. And long story short, the other guy is like trying to find some stuff. I think he's up in the cellar, or he's up in the upstairs room. And the family convinces him, like, hey, like, this is your chance. Like, we won't say anything. Defend yourself. You know, like, you take care of him. And he comes downstairs and he's like, what's going on here? And the young kid tackles him. He tackles his crook buddy. And he ends up landing, I think he ends up landing hard downstairs. And he ends up killing him. And then it just completely cuts to a different scene. So immediately, I'm like, oh God, this is great. Like, it got spliced, but it doesn't get spliced. It cuts to a scene where there's a car pulling up with another car pulling up. And a man in a suit is showing the house to a woman. And you're like, well, this is the same house. It's a realtor showing the house. They go inside, and he's showing the house to this woman. And the little boy you see the back of the little boy sitting on the steps. Only the little boy isn't real. He's a mannequin. He goes, oh, this is just a little prop that we have. I like to introduce people when they come in, when I introduce the house. So then we go into the living room, and we see the husband, the wife, and the teenage daughter are all mannequins. So they sit down at the kitchen table as they go over paperwork and stuff, and who's sitting at the table is the the bad crook, he's just sitting there, and he looks very gaunt and cold because he's dead. And neither one of the woman or the realtor don't realize that he's dead. And she's like, oh, he looks so real. Like, yeah, we really like to make these mannequins lifelike. Meanwhile, the nice crook comes down the stairs and goes, oh, hi, I'm Billy. And he goes, oh, just some kid that's working on the house. And then all of a sudden, the dead guy falls over and they realize that he's dead, and they both go running out of the house. And the kid, Billy, as we'll call him, is standing there, and the realtor kind of just looks at him and walks by. And then the hitchhiker comes, and the episode sort of ends, and he closes it, saying that Billy always wanted a family. And in this place, he finally got one. Why is this number one, Justin? What the fuck do you like about this episode? Because the ending is so out there. These people weren't real. They were mannequins. He manifested a family so that it would be enough of a reason for him to finally turn on his partner. The ending doesn't really make sense in the sense of them walking out of the house, but it just blew my mind. So that's number one. We are an hour and 1 minute in. I imagine a lot of people probably aren't going to want to tune in to watch me speak about an 80s show that lasted 6 seasons for a whole hour, but I don't really care. All right. I'm going to close this with what I told you I was going to do. Why did I like these episodes? Simple. I told you, but in a nutshell, Homebody's crazy ending. Very Twilight Zone-like. Mannequins, what's not to like? Ghost Rider, I like the entire episode except for the ending, because he should have gotten away with it, in my opinion. My Enemy, why did I like that? I'm sorry, a woman wants to be famous and a famous woman wants to be normal. They're both the same person. Neither one of them can have the other one's life because they're both the same person. Yeah. What's not to like about that? Living a Lie, again, I saw the ending coming from a mile away, but I just thought I just really enjoyed the episode. I knew this guy was just sitting back, just enjoying it. Knowing, I was just like, yeah, you stupid son of a bitch, something's going to happen to you. Remembering Melody, because it was the first episode that was very sentimental and kind of went over my head, I appreciated it going over my head. Out of the Night, because it's the opposite of Ghost Rider. None of the episode made sense except for the ending, which pulled it all together. Hit and Run, because it reminded me of Passage of Trumpet, Twilight Zone episode. I knew he was dead the entire time, but I still enjoyed the episode. Minuteman, because it was the only damn episode that didn't have a twist ending. That was actually a happy ending. Dark Wishes, again, because I knew the ending was coming, but I appreciated it nonetheless. And then Pawns, because it was really one of the few episodes that was really dark. Dark. Now I'm going to talk about some episodes that, kind of sum up the show in a nutshell. As why the show was lackluster. I mentioned the first episode, Shattered Vows. Split Decision. The Landers sisters in the 80s apparently were popular. They play two sisters. This guy wants to sell the house. And they need to sell their house or whatever. And basically they're both they show up in sexy, outfits, trying to convince him, we shouldn't sell the house, or you just want my sister. It's a really dumb episode. It's very, very comedic. It's called Split Decision because there's two of them fighting over the guy, and they end up, one of them takes a chainsaw and just, you don't actually see them sawing him in half, but it was just kind of like, really? Very weird episode. Uh, and If We Dream, controversial. And If We Dream is an episode where this high school teacher sleeps with one of his students, and she becomes infatuated with him to the point where she has the ability to trap him in her mind, in her dreams, so that he no longer is around anymore. And they have to get a new teacher because this teacher is now trapped in her dreams. A lot of people, from what I gathered online, didn't like this episode, and it was deemed controversial when I actually looked it up because, like, oh, it's a high school student sleeping with a student. That's gross. Are we gonna look over? Are we really gonna overlook the other fact that it's weird? If you even if you take that aspect out, the episode's still weird because, like, this man no longer exists because she traps him in her mind, and she becomes infatuated with him. It's a little bit of like a weird Lolita quality. I don't know. I just think you put it all together, it was just a really weird episode. Um, Man at the Window. Man at the Window should be on my list of top 10. Unfortunately, the ending sucks. Basically, in a nutshell, this woman is having an affair on her husband. This woman is having an affair on her husband with another woman. And this guy who has a studio across from her has a telescope, and he sees this woman cheating on her husband with this other woman. So basically, he thinks he can use this. But the problem is, when he goes over there, the husband shows up. And the husband has already suspected her of cheating. And immediately, because the other guy's there, the husband thinks that she's cheating on him with the guy. And the guy's like, no, 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 he's cheating on you with her. And the husband's like, yeah, right, sure. So apparently the husband is a bad guy, and when the guy tries to leave, the police gun him down instead of the husband. It's a mess. It had such potential. The ending just ruins it. um, Hired Help, that was the one with Karen Black. It's a little racist, in my opinion. So this Karen Black and this guy are like two bosses, and they own uh, this business, this landscaping business, and they hire a bunch of Mexicans. And basically, this is one Mexican guy who Karen Black is like, oh, he's not following the rules. I like him. And she takes him to bed. And they have sex. Of course, it's Karen Black. They're not going to show anything. And she wakes up. Actually, I think while they're having sex or whatever, he turns into a demon. And like kills her or haunts her, whatever. I think I don't think he kills her, if I remember correctly. She like sees the error of her ways and decides not to hire Mexicans anymore or whatever. I didn't care for it. It was just blatantly racist. And I was like, what are we doing? Like I said, I'm only talking about episodes that I vividly remember. uh, WGOD with Gary Busey, it went over my head. I still don't get it. Basically, he's like this televangelist radio host, and somebody's talking to him, somebody calls in, and they haunt him, or he, to the point where he ends up killing somebody, but then he goes back to the radio station covered in blood, and then he's still on the radio talking about blasphemous thoughts. It was no idea. Man's best friend, this guy, loses his job, loses his wife, ends up staying at his buddy's house for the week while he's out on vacation. So he's house sitting. The man sees this white dog. He ends up having the white dog live in this guy's house, his buddy's house, with him. And the ex-wife gets killed. The ex-wife's lover gets killed. His boss gets killed. All these people in his life. Meanwhile, the house is just completely going to shit. It's revealed that he thinks the dog has been killing all these people. The dog's not even there. The dog never existed. It's him. He's been killing people because he lost his job and he lost his wife. He lost everything. So he's been going on this killing rampage, killing spree. And he thinks he sees the dog and he just jumps out the window to his death. Yeah. Great episode, right? The Curse. This is the one with Lorenzo Lamas or Henry Hamlin. I'm not sure which one. This episode's actually also good because it's another, like, the guy sees the error of his ways and he doesn't get killed at the end of the episode. He looks down at his window and sees the woman who put the curse on him. So he's like nod to respect, and she looks up at him and smiles. And the episode ends because the hitchhiker appears, and I'm like, okay, that wasn't bad. Basically, you see where I'm going with the series. A lot of episodes have such potential, or they're just weird as fuck. And you're like, okay, where is this episode going? And a lot of them just get lost in the shuffle halfway through, or the ending just ruins them. Dead Heat. Dead Heat is such a, oh my god. So this other hitchhiker, I don't want to call him the hitchhiker. This homeless guy, I guess, is like, well, no, what the hell, like, this drifter, there we go, comes across this garage. And before he comes across the garage, the owner of the garage is trying to convince his girlfriend to come back in her car, treating her like shit. And she's like, we're done. He's like, oh, come on back in the car, sweetie. Talking like a total jackass. Convinces her to go back in the car. They go back to the garage or his house, whatever. They're still arguing. The drifter comes up. The guy offers the drifter a job. Meanwhile, the guy the jackass guy apparently is an artist, and he crafts weird shit in his garage. For this particular project he's working on, he wants to try to recreate a car accident that happened in the 50s for some weird fucking reason. And he's got a welding mask on. He's just making all this crazy stuff. So then he says he'll pay the drifter if he acts as one of the people in this art piece, as one of the people that had the accident. And he wants his girlfriend to be a part of it too. Of course, because the guy's treating his girlfriend like shit, the drifter and the girlfriend end up getting together in a barn having sex. And he knows this, and it's almost like he's a cuck because he allows it. And it's just really, I don't even remember the ending. It's just such a weird episode. I think he ends up blowing up the barn. And it's like, why does he want his girlfriend to be with this drifter? And why does he want them for this weird art piece about a car accident in the 50s. It's so goddamn weird. Why Are You Here is probably as bad as Dead Heat is. So episode 29 is Dead Heat, right? That's an awful episode. So Minuteman is 28, Dead Heat is 29. Why Are You Here with Helen Hunt, episode 30, probably the worst episode. It's so bad. This guy is like the host of like a reality TV show where he goes to these like hot clubs and he's like, "Why are you here?" And he just interviews random people. Despite knowing who he is, a lot of people are like, "Fuck off." And apparently Helen Hunt is like the belle of the ball, like the shit at this prestigious club, and he follows her, and he's got a camcorder, he's filming them and shit, and they go out to like an alleyway and they kill a homeless person. And as if that weren't crazy enough, they go back to like a hotel room and Helen Hunt's character is trying to like shoot up heroin into her arm. And they end up shooting him up with heroin and they end up killing him. And then one of the guys ends up taking the camera and goes, "Why are you here?" And I was just like, wow, this episode is terrible. The legendary Billy B, I thought it was going to be a good episode. It's not. Like, Kirstie Alley's character is actually really good in it, up until the end. Because her character sort of deserves what happens to her, but that kind of gets lost in the whole dynamic of where the episode goes. Made for Each Other, that's the one with Bill Paxton. So he's a killer, and he befriends this shy, lonely guy at a liquor store. And the guy at the liquor store is putting a bottle of tainted, poisoned wine back on the shelf that he poisoned. And they befriend each other. They both bring home a black prostitute to Bill Paxton's character's house. And the prostitute sees on the TV that he's wanted. And she tells the other guy, saying, "He's not your friend, he's a bad guy," not realizing that he's bad. And the episode pretty much ends with the police walking in, and they're both dead because they both tried to kill each other after finding out. Yeah. Yeah. I'll just go over a few more. Yeah, let me just go over a few more here, if I can remember them. Coach. Coach is a really bad episode. Basically, back in the day, this coach, when he was in high school, he ran track and he broke this record. And he has got this trophy. And he's one of those quintessential, hard-on, "This is my record. 30 years later, this is my record. This is my baby. No one will ever beat me." Except now he's got a son. And this mysterious girl ends up becoming his son's girlfriend. And as the days go by, they're preparing for this race. In the more time that goes by, she's encouraging him. And the coach doesn't like it because he's like, "My son's not going to break my record." He never once says it's going to be good that, the son ends up breaking the record, and the coach ends up going on there, and he's running, and he crosses the finish line, and he's just completely cracked. And he's like, "I won. Did you see me, son? I won." "Yeah, Dad, you're a winner." And that's how it ends. Like, the coach completely cracking, thinking that he still owns the record, and he doesn't. It was just such a bleh. Striptease. This is the one with John Glover and Jill Hennessy. It's not called striptease for the reason you think. I think it's called that because of the metaphorical layers that are stripped away. Basically, John Glover works at this. He's like a. He's got this job at this laboratory, and this girl that he's worked alongside with for 2 years really likes him, wants to take him out for drinks, and he's like, "I don't like you. I barely want to work with you." Shuns her. Then he goes to a bar and sees some of his old buddies. Hey, you guys want to go out tonight? We can go to another place. No, I don't know. And they convince him. Oh, how's Becky doing? Is she doing good? Basically, that's Jill Hennessy's character they used to date. So they all end up hanging out, and it's just awkward. John Glover's character's getting shit-faced, and you realize that he was like the loser of the group, but he wasn't really the loser. It's just he pushed them away because he starts talking down to him the more he drinks. He's like, "You guys know I'm smarter than you." So I guess John Glover's problem is he keeps pushing these people away, which is why he's alone. So eventually he goes to another bar, and after making an ass out of himself with his former friends, he sees this girl who's down in the dumps. And he talks to her, and he gives her this great speech, right? The type of speech you wouldn't think to get from such a guy with such a shitty lifestyle who pushes people away. They end up sleeping together. And he goes, I'll give people your number. I'll tell them that you're a good time. Thanks. Tosses her money. And she leaves. And he goes to the bathroom. And, like, first of all, I'm like, you totally blew that. And he goes to the bathroom and realizes he made a mistake. So he runs outside to catch her, and he's like, "I'm really sorry. Look, I'm really sorry. I'm just not used to having nice women. It's just," and she goes, "No, it's not that. It's not what you did. It's just, it's you. It's you." And she goes across the street and gets hit by a bus, and the episode ends. And I'm just like, what the fuck just happened? As if the episode wasn't boring enough, right? So yeah, basically, I'll stop talking about this. That's the Hitchhiker, a show that 50% of me was like totally locked in, watching it, enjoying episodes, while the other 50% of me was like, that could have been way, way better. What are we doing? I know this was a long episode. If you watch this to its entirety, I appreciate you. Would I suggest that you watch The Hitchhiker for yourself? You can if you want. I don't know where you can watch it because I watch it on some crappy, stupid app that's not Hulu, Netflix, Tubi, or Pluto, or YouTube. It might be on YouTube. You might be able to find some episodes there. But again, if you do watch this, come back, DM me somewhere on social media. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your favorite episodes are. I apologize for this being an hour and 25 minutes because I just ran on, right? But again, I do hope you enjoy this episode on my analyzing the 80s anthology show, The Hitchhiker. Do stay tuned for more of my videos, and do be sure to hit the like, subscribe button for any time that I go live.